It's true. Please be seated. Mr. Parrish, are you ready to call your next witness?
I am, Your Honor. Looking for some notes, Jack. I should tell you. I'd like to call Connor Snoring to the stand, please.
Please raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that any testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? I do. State your seat. Please state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Connor Sorovi. That's C-O-N-N-O-R. Last name S-I-R-O. V as in victory, Y.
Your witness, Mr. Barrett.
Thank you. Would you tell us your age, please?
I'm 20 years old, about to be 21.
Okay. And where are you employed, sir?
Currently, I work for a company called Landmark Aviation based out of Cedar Rapids. They did just change their name to Signature Flight Support, though.
Okay. And what do you do there?
I am a lead line service technician. I'm a part of a supervisory team that manages a group of line techs at the airport.
How long you've worked there?
I have worked there for a year and 1 month.
And you were the boyfriend who's referred to throughout the trial and in some of the messages of Ms. Farrington, Andrea Farrington, is that correct?
That is correct. Her name is Andrea Farrington, and we were dating for a year and 5 months until that tragic day.
Okay. And you were living in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, is that right?
That is correct.
Had you ever, to your best recollection, looked at apartments in North Liberty?
Yes, we did.
Would you tell us when you looked at apartments in North Liberty?
Andrea and I are, well, let me start off. Our lease was going to end in July 1st of 2015. Around late April into May, we were looking into apartments in North Liberty because I'm on the fire department there.
Okay. Is that a full fire department, or is that a volunteer fire department?
That is a volunteer fire department that I'm on a temporary leave from.
And you were on that department back in, was that to be March and April?
I was vested in, as a probationary firefighter for their first year program in January of 2015. And then I went on my temporary leave around mid-July of 2015.
So you were actually looking at apartments in North Liberty, and as I believe you indicated, it was somewhere around March or April?
No, it would have been April to May.
All right. Did you know at that time, and had Ms. Farrington indicated to you anything about her friendship with Alex Kozak?
Absolutely, I knew everything about it.
Okay. And you knew that he lived in North Liberty, is that correct?
I did.
Did she tell you any reasons why she wanted to move to North Liberty back when you were looking at apartments there, other than your being on the fire department?
It was, at that time, it was more of a in-between point for, she worked in Coralville, I worked in Cedar Rapids. It was, for her, it was a quicker drive. For me, it was like more 15 to 20 minutes to get to work versus her half-hour drive from Cedar Rapids all the way to Coralville. But main concern was my parents were there, and it was just an overall better community. It was safer.
Okay. And you said that you knew everything about the relationship that Ms. Farrington had with Mr. Kozak. Did you know at that time that Mr. Kozak was also living in North Liberty?
Yes, I did. I knew he lived on Sadler Lane.
And how far was that from apartments that you looked at? Did you look at any apartments in the same building?
We looked at some on the other side of town. See, he lives kind of directly on, or lived, that Sadler Lane address was kind of middle of town, due south, right on the edge. We looked out toward 380 at a new housing development that was being built over there.
Did you look at any apartments close to the apartment building that he was living in?
Yes, we did.
How many times did you go and visit apartments located close to where Mr. Kozak was living?
Like I said, it wasn't too terribly close. It was closer to the fire department, and my family lived right around the corner. We went and looked at that one twice, and then we signed a lease.
Okay. And the lease that you signed was not the one close to where Mr. Kozak was living, was it?
No, no. Well, like I said, we looked at two of them. The one out by 380 was a ways away, but this one was closer too, but closer to the fire department, response time-wise for me.
And when did you sign that lease, do you recall?
Month-wise, I do not remember.
Okay. You know whether it might have been in April, May, or in June?
No, it wouldn't have been June. I want to
Okay.
say it was, I think it was May.
Okay. And that lease was approximately for how long?
That would have been a 12-month lease.
And did you both put your signatures on that lease?
Yes, we did. And we put down a deposit.
And would you tell us distance-wise, and how do you pronounce your last name? I don't want to pronounce it wrong. I said Sirov?
It's Sir O.V.
Sirov, okay. And Mr. Sirov, how far was your apartment that you and Ms. Farrington signed the lease on away from Mr. Kozak's apartment distance?
Drive time, 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
Good traffic.
Now, I want to go back from the date your girlfriend died, Andrea died, June 12th of 2015. She had texted you at some point that day, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
She had texted you and indicated that she was going to hang out with Carly.
That is correct, yes. She texted me that at 7:16 p.m.
Right. And who is Carly?
Carly is Carly was the young lady that was sitting there when Alex came up and shot Andrea. She was the one sitting in Andrea's desk while Andrea was standing.
Did you know of your own personal knowledge at that time that she was going to meet Mr. Tehat at the Mellow Mushroom?
No, I knew that she had plans after work, but then she was going to end up at Carly's.
Okay. But you would agree at 7:16 she had sent you the note that you just testified about, is that correct?
That is correct. I was off that day.
Okay. Now I want to back up from that date. Were you aware in the first week of June that she and Alex Kozak had restarted their texting relationship to the extent that it was?
To the extent, no. That they had started talking again, yes. That was actually me saying, go for it, try it. It's work.
You mean on the actual text message that's come into evidence where she indicates that this is Connor, that was you? Is that what you mean?
That was, no, I
Oh.
apologize.
Oh, no.
Around the June 5th time when Alex approached the kiosk and said, do you want to be friends again? Andrea had actually texted me, I was at work that day, and said, Alex came up to the kiosk and asked exactly what she said, or what he said, would you like to be friends again? And she said no. She told me she had said no. That day when I got home from work, my hours were off, she'd be in bed, I'd wake her up, we'd spend some time together. And she asked what I thought about it, and I said if it's affecting his job and you feel safe enough to to speak with him and work with him, do it. I said don't jeopardize your both jobs. But before I asked her that, I said, do you think Alex would be stupid enough to hurt you? Or would he ever hurt you? And she says, no, I don't think he's stupid enough.
So in that exchange that she had with you, she indicated to you that Alex had reinstated or restarted the friendship, is that correct? And that would have been about the 5th of June?
He initiated it,
All
yes.
And were you aware as to the extent of their conversation from the 5th of June until her death, wherein there was discussions about him leaving his wife for her?
Can you repeat that
Right,
question,
okay.
please?
I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear. Let me try again. Between the 5th of June, when she came to you and indicated that Alex wanted to restart their friendship, were you aware of the extent of the exchanges between them, and between them I mean Alex and Andrea, to the extent where there were discussions about him leaving his wife for her?
No. Anything that has been discussed following June 6th and later, I was not aware of anything.
Okay.
I had asked, is everything okay? And just verbal yeses.
Okay. Had she told you, and when I mean she, Andrea, Ms. Farrington, told you that she wanted to end her relationship with you?
We had come to a mutual agreement. Now, in order to support what I'm saying, I need to back up a little bit to explain. When we signed that lease in North Liberty, we were good to go. Some things happened financially. She had also gotten a new car, and we were stable for a while, but then we started falling behind. I mean, we could pay it. It was just paying for a more expensive apartment that wasn't as easy. So we backed out and were able to get our deposit back. And then at that point, we started discussing, all right, what are we going to do? Are we going to try to stay where we are? Well, we found out a new management company came in. They raised our rates. We had no options. We decided mutually that we were going to move to each of our parents, get back on our feet, and maintain the relationship, not as a boyfriend and girlfriend, but get back on our feet financially in order to get back together in the future.
So I'm trying to understand your response. Had she told you that she was going to break up this relationship with you?
No.
All right.
Mutual agreement.
All right. So then, prior to her death, it's your thought that she had never communicated that to you. Would that be a fair statement?
That is correct.
All right.
A specific breakup? No, that was never communicated between the two of us.
And I know you've been sitting in the courtroom, and that's fine, but I want to ask you a question about a statement that was in her text message,
Okay.
that for 2 nights, at least prior to her writing a text message to Mr. Kozak, she'd indicated that the two of you had not been sleeping together, and she'd been sleeping on the couch.
That is correct, yes.
That is correct?
That is correct.
Okay. But what you're saying, it was not part of any breakup?
No.
Okay. Do you know anyone who had a number of 515-209, I'm sorry, strike that, 515-520-9346?
Without typing that number into my phone, I would not be able to tell you no.
Did you have access to Andrea's Apple 5C phone?
Apple 5C phone.
A 5S, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was going to say she never had a 5C.
Right.
She went from an Android to a 5S.
5S. Did you?
I had access to it, and she changed the code the day of, and I think even the day before she passed away. And she told me the code, and I can't remember either of them.
When did she tell you the code?
She called me.
From work that day?
She called me on, I believe, one of her breaks, and she was checking on me because the day before I had stayed at work really late and I was very sick because of the storm before.
And I take it that agents or investigators came to you in an effort to open her phone, wanting to know if you recalled her password. Is that correct?
That is correct. It was the day I had Andrea's other set of keys. So we met them at the Coral Ridge Mall. I want to say this was the Sunday or Monday following the event. And we went to retrieve her car where they wanted to just look through her vehicle, document a few things if there was anything of value, which I do not believe there was. And he also gave me an opportunity to try looking at the phone, and I was hesitant because I knew if I typed in the wrong password so many times, it would lock up. And I didn't want to jeopardize anything that they could try in the future.
And so you would agree that you never had her new password, is that correct? Except what she told you, but you couldn't recall. That's your only recollection of it.
Correct. She
All right.
verbally told me, but I do not remember what it was.
Did you remember the one that she had, say, 3 days before? Did you know that one?
Yes. If you asked me today, I could not tell you.
Okay.
And I did attempt that password for the prior one to see if it got switched back or something, but no.
When the agents came to speak with you, did they ask to see your cell phone?
No, they didn't ask. I did, on the other hand, mention to them that I did have text messages, conversation between me and Andrea. Regular
told them that?
conversation, yes.
All right. And what service do you have?
U.S. Cellular. At that time,
Yes, sir.
At that time, I believe it was U.S. Cellular, and then my family switched to Verizon.
That's what I was going to ask you initially, and I got a little bit ahead of myself. Do you have a family plan?
I would have to ask my mother. She's sitting behind you. I believe so, yes. It's a shared, if I remember.
All right. So back in 2015, you would have been on a family plan of some sort?
With U.S. Cellular, I'm not sure. Verizon, yes.
All right. So with U.S. Cellular, you told them that you had text messages. Did the agents or any investigators in this case ever do what's called a Cellbrite download on your cell phone?
Absolutely not. No, they never detained my phone.
Did you offer to provide your phone or text messages to them?
In the moment, I don't believe it was relevant.
Okay. And they never asked you for it. Would that be fair?
No, sir.
Okay. Had they asked you for it, I take it you would have been happy to provide it to them?
Absolutely.
Okay. Have you ever pulled up your text messages to review them, as some people will save them in their telephone? The ones you had gotten from Andrea the week before this incident, let's say from the 8th of June until the 12th of June?
So the month of June.
Yes, sir.
I had reviewed most of my text messages, recalled on what was going on between me and her, any conversations, to see if anything stood out that maybe I missed.
Okay. And you know that we have now introduced a unredacted version of the cell phone records into evidence, which means that we would have all the calls that would have been exchanged, at least that between the 8th and the 12th of June of 2015.
Yes, this is, let me make sure. There are not any breaks in this, so this would be the unredacted version, Exhibit LL.
Can you go in and find your phone number anywhere?
give me some time here because some of
Yeah, and
the time frames here would have been at work, so it's going to take me a little while.
Let me save you a little time here. Would you agree that for the 4 days leading up to her tragic death that you all were not communicating very much? Would that be fair?
No, I disagree with that.
Okay, you would be texting her quite a bit?
Yeah, we were very much communicating. Like I said, when I'm at work, my phone is in my pocket. I don't text a whole lot.
Do you have what that number is?
My phone number?
Yes, sir, at that time?
Yes, they remain the same between both carriers.
Okay. And that number is no longer in existence, is that correct?
It is. My number is still active, the same number I've had all my life.
So we're going to broadcast that all over. I'm going to at least have you write your number down
Okay.
on what I've marked as Defendant's Exhibit MM.
Okay,
Would
do
you
you
write
have-
your number? You need a pen?
If you would, please.
Right. Just write your number down on that, please, and tell us if that was your number back in June of 2015.
There you are, sir.
Thank you. And we'll do that so we won't have to publish it all over.
Okay, do you want me to continue looking for my...
Yeah, it may,
Just-
I don't want to speak what the evidence is, but I've looked at all the funds. I'm going to move to introduce this. I'm going to put your initials on this, please.
Okay.
Thank you. And if you don't mind, put a date on it. I think it's the 20th of April of 2016. Thank you. Would it surprise you, let me ask it this way, and save you some time, that your, any text from or to you would be pretty minimal, if at all, on these?
I apologize. Can you
find
repeat that question?
Would you find it surprising that there was very little communications between you and Andrea during that week?
The week leading up to?
Yes.
After the mutual agreement, it slowed down a little bit, but that was also because of some things at work transitioning. I was moving into a supervisory position, so I was trying to put forth more effort, and but the only contact we had was in the morning. She'd go to work, I'd go to work, I'd talk to her before work. After work, I'd wake her up, we'd have dinner, so it was mostly in-person contact.
Okay. And very few text messages, would you agree?
That is correct.
I would move to introduce Defendant's Exhibit MM, please.
No objection.
Exhibit MM is admitted.
I have a few more questions for you, and then I'm going to be through. The other question I have for you with regard to Andrea's relationship with Mr. Kozak, did Andrea tell you specifically that Mr. Kozak wanted her to go away for the weekend, and that's the note that he left on her car? Or was it something different?
All right, can you please repeat that question?
Right. Did Ms. Farrington tell you that Mr. Kozak wanted her to go away for the weekend to a concert, and that was the note that he left on her car?
I do not specifically remember it saying concert, but I do remember seeing the note.
Okay. What did the note say?
Like I said, I do not exactly remember the content. Andrea had brought it to my attention when I got home from work. At that time, she had actually just thrown it away, but she said she was so incredibly uncomfortable with it, she wondered what she should do. I read it, like I said, don't remember the content, and I found it creepy. I do remember that. I found it odd. I myself was upset that he was leaving notes on my girlfriend's car, and at this point I had known about the relationship before. We had discussed it, everything was okay, and I told her, let's make sure he doesn't, at that point my words were, harass you anymore. So I said, I think you should go to your friend Wendy because she knows the chain to get that note to his boss, and which Andrea did. And the next day Andrea texted me or told me in person, can't remember which. She goes, Wendy did turn it in. She came back and said that Cy was going to take care of it and possibly get a copy and put it in his file.
But Andrea had thrown the note away at first, is that correct? Is
At
what you
first,
said?
yes.
Okay. Did you ever make the statement that Andrea told you that Mr. Kozak wanted to take her away for the weekend?
See, as you read that, that's the content I remember. I don't remember any mention. Obviously, I've been sitting in here, so I remember before people were discussing content of a concert. I remember a weekend of getting away.
Okay.
And that's what made her incredibly uncomfortable, because at that point, they were done.
Okay. Now, did you know at that time, and as you said, you have been sitting here, did you know at that time that it was the same concert that Wendy Robbins wanted to take her away to?
Like I said, the note, I don't remember it saying anything about a concert. I remember a getaway weekend. I didn't know what that entailed, and I didn't ask her.
Do you know which concert that she and Wendy Robbins were going to go to?
Oh yes, her favorite, Jason Aldean, and there was one other person, and we were looking at the cost for it.
Okay. And so it was your understanding only she and Wendy were going to go there?
That is correct, because I said that'd be a great idea, and we were looking at our finances to see if we could make that possible.
Okay. Do you know when that concert was going to take place?
At the time, yes. Now, no. I have no idea.
How did Andrea tell you that her relationship with Mr. Kozak had ended prior to the 1st of June of 2015?
So specifically, I can't remember. I can remember vague aspects of it. Andrea and I had gone through a rough patch, but Andrea and I loved each other. There was no doubt about that. At the end of each day, I mean, This surgery changed her life, and she got more attention than she ever had before. And like her mother said, she was 20 years old.
Mr. Sorobi, I need you to listen to the questions. Please just answer the questions if you're asked.
Okay, will you repeat the question then?
Let me, how did Andrea tell you prior to June how her relationship had ended with Mr. Kozak?
She came to me because she was frightened.
That's what she told you?
Yes.
So would you be surprised then that she continued to communicate with him in the fashion that you've heard, how she continued to communicate with him during the time you've been sitting in the courtroom?
Before I answer that, I stepped out during that portion.
Okay.
But as for opening the relationship friendship-wise and giving people opportunities, Andrea was never a person to hold a grudge. She
Okay,
would
let
never
me-
forget.
Let me ask you this. Would it surprise you that they still talk about, in those text messages, about him leaving his wife? During the first week of June?
Leave his wife to be with Andrea?
Yes,
Would it surprise me?
yes.
Yes.
Would surprise you that they talked about getting together to have a relationship during the month of June?
At that time, yes.
Because would it be fair to say that based upon what she had told you, you thought it was simply just friendship, is that correct?
Beginning the June 5th time? Yes. A coworker companionship, strictly.
The last question I have for you is, did Andrea ever come to you and indicate in a way to get you upset that Alex Kozak had given her flowers?
To make me upset? No, because they ended up in the garbage that night. She put them there.
I have nothing further.
Ms. Lang.
Yes, and I've been saying it's Sorovi, is that,
That is correct.
that is correct,
Thank you,
okay.
Janet.
When was it that you believed that Andrea was afraid of Mr. Kozak? Would that have been in like late April?
That would have been in the April month, mid to late April. When it ended abruptly. Like I said, I can't remember the specifics behind that. That was so long ago, and after everything, it's just ruined my mind. But she was especially afraid because she would leave for work, and she always felt she was being watched. And there was a few times I came to walk her out. And then the note happened, and she was frightened.
So you actually would go from Cedar Rapids to Coralville to
Yes.
walk her out to her car?
Yes, I did that, I think, 2 or 3 times.
And was it the fact that it was a note and not so much the content that seemed to scare her when it was left on her car?
It definitely scared her because that validated that she was being watched, or she felt uncomfortable enough to need security. But then the note verified that he knew where her car was.
Did you know Wendy Robbins?
I did, yes.
And how did you meet Wendy Robbins?
I never met Wendy until after. I had wanted to. Andrea and I had made plans to go out with her a few times, go out to dinner, do something. But there were numerous nights, and Wendy and her would be texting at night, and we'd be laying in bed beside each other, joking around with what they were saying, back and forth.
Were those two pretty good friends?
Oh, they were great friends. She was such a strong support for Wendy.
Do you know when Wendy and Andrea were talking about going to the Jason Aldean concert?
like I said, that was probably around the March, April time. I like I said, that the dates are specifically, I don't remember. But like I said, I do remember researching it, airfare, lodging, etc.
So it was a concert some ways away.
Yes, I believe Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City, Missouri. I can't remember which one.
Now, regarding the phone, did you have your own phone, is that correct?
Yes, my own cell phone.
Okay. Did you communicate with Andrea in ways other than just by text?
Yes, phone call, FaceTime, sometimes Facebook Messenger. But she communicated with her mother and sister using that KIK app, the Kik. I call it Keek, but we were strictly text, Facebook, FaceTime, nothing really much further.
Did she also use Instagram?
Yes, I used it to view her pictures that she'd put on or comment on, see other people's. I never used it personally. I just used it to look at other stuff. Yeah, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, that was her. Snapchat.
Okay. In looking at those text messages that Mr. Parrish asked you to look at, is it difficult to read the different messages and figure out who's on there and who's it's from and to?
It is, because there's two columns, there's the from and a to, and they're front and back. And so you have to look at both who it came from and to, so you're looking at two numbers, and there's 110 pages,
Okay.
which I need more time to look at those.
In the early part of June of 2015, was it your understanding that you were mutually splitting up with Andrea as opposed to her breaking up with you?
Yes, the mutual, it was a break. It was time to get back on our feet in order for us to restart in the future and continue where we left off. She was going to keep her ring, everything.
Were there times in the past when there had been discussions about breaking up and then you had gotten back together?
On her side, yeah, she would get a little bit frustrated, but that's stress in everyone's life.
Is that how she was, should say? We're breaking up at times and then it wouldn't really amount to anything?
Yes. Yep. She'd go home for a weekend. Well, not to elaborate, she'd text me when I'm at work, I'm going to go to my parents' house, I need time. Don't really know what it's about, come home, there's a note on the table saying, I'll be back, I love you. Long notes, explaining why she loves me.
And it was always your hope in June that even when you both moved back to your parents' homes that you would get back together?
I had no doubt.
On June 12th, were you working that day, do you recall?
June 12th, no. June 11th, yes.
Okay. You mentioned you were sick, is that right?
There was a bad storm that had come through, and at that time I was just a line tech. I wasn't a part of the supervisory group yet. And our airlines were delayed because of lightning, and so we can't fuel during the lightning. So about 10 o'clock we picked up again, and we didn't finish until 1 o'clock in the morning. The whole time I didn't have much rain gear, and I was getting soaked. Got sick off that.
So on June 11th or 12th, were you actually staying home because you were sick?
June 12th, I woke up that morning, and that's when I realized I was sick. I heard Andrea putting her cereal bowl in the sink, and that's when I went out and said, have a great day. And I was dizzy. I couldn't walk straight, and she says, you do not look good. Go lay down. I said, I will. Have a great day. I'll see you when you get home. She goes, oh, yeah.
And what was the last thing that you said to each other?
I never got to tell her I love her because I was walking to the bathroom.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Anything further, Mr. Parrish?
No, thank you.
Sir, you may step down, you're excused. Mr. Parrish, you may call your next witness.
Please, would you come forward, raise your right hand to be sworn?
And do you solemnly swear or affirm that any testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Please take your seat. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Cindy McComas, CYNDYMCCOMAS.
And how old lady are you, ma'am?
50,
And are you married or single?
single.
You're the mother of Alex Kozak, is
Yes,
that
I
correct?
am.
And would you give us your address so we'll have that on the record, please?
305 Robinson Court, Granbury, Texas.
And how long have you lived in Granbury, Texas?
Just recently we moved back, but prior to that, 20 years.
And did you ever live at Iowa at one point?
Yes.
And when did you live in Iowa?
We left Granbury in July of '08 and purchased the house on Pleasant Street in Osage.
And where are you originally from, if not from Iowa or Texas?
I was born in Southern California.
And you were married to Alex's father, is that correct?
Yes.
Would you tell the jury his name, please?
George Houston Wynn III.
And you are divorced from him?
Yes.
And when were you divorced from him?
September 2000.
And has he ever lived with you and Alex and the other kids, and we'll talk about them in just a second, since your divorce?
No.
Okay. And where were you divorced, in California or in Texas?
Texas in Granbury.
Tell me, other than Alexander, who are your other two kids, please?
Janae Nicole Wynn and Valerie Rose Wynn.
How old are they?
Janae is 27 and the baby is 20.
And are they here in court with you today?
Yes, sir.
And have they been here with agreement with the state, you knowing you all are going to testify? They've been here all week, is that correct? Or last week and a half or whatever. Is
Yes,
that correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
And I don't intend to ask you about any facts that have in fact come up during the course of the trial, specifically dealing with factual issues, but I do intend to ask you some questions about Alexander, where he grew up, where you all lived at various times, and your last set of conversations with him before this incident happened, okay? Right. And we've met before to discuss Alexander's background, have we not?
Yes, we have.
You've also on occasion spoken with a forensic psychiatrist by the name of Dr. William Logan, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Prior to this incident with Alex, did you know Dr. Logan at all?
No.
Never met him? As you sit here today, you've never met him now, is that correct?
No.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about where did Alex grow up until he was like, let's say 12 years old. Where did he move from? And just tell us in pretty brief terms.
Granbury.
All right. And he was born in California, though, right?
Yes.
All right. But he grew up in Granbury.
Yes.
All right. And say for his first 10 years, did he live totally in Granbury at that point?
Yes.
And were you working during the time he was growing up?
Yes, sir. I was a domestic engineer.
All right. And where did you do that work, in Granbury?
In my home.
All right. And that was with his brother, his two sisters, is that correct?
Yes.
Did at a certain point you leave Granbury and move to Iowa?
Yes.
And when was that?
July of '08.
And tell the jury why you moved from Granbury to Iowa, and why at that point in time did you make that decision to do that?
The last living family member outside of my children and myself had passed away. I was helping take care of her. The school district at the time, the GISD, was not so good. Alex was 9th grade, and I had made a decision, since it was a separate campus from the high school, that I wanted the kids to meet Mom's side of the family and get to know the history on that side. I always liked Osage, going there when I was younger.
So you moved your 2 kids, your 3 kids, one of them including Alex, to Osage, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, you've heard the investigator in this case talk about photographs that he was taking, and you mentioned the address you moved to. Which address did you move to in Osage when you first moved in? And were you and the kids involved in some activity with regard to those homes that you moved to? And just tell us briefly, please.
Yes, sir. The first house we moved into was 1032 Pleasant Street. It's one of those fabulous historical type homes that y'all have up here. And that was my goal, is to just take care of those houses and keep them nice and keep them standing.
So is this defendant's exhibit out here, is this a photograph of the house that you moved into when you first moved up from Texas to Osage, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you refurbish the houses along with your kids?
Yes.
Who did the majority of the work on the refurbishing?
The hardest, heaviest stuff would be Alex.
Okay. And what type work did he was how old at that point?
15,
And what grade was he going into?
sophomore year.
Okay. And it was his first stay in Iowa at that point for an extended period of time, is that correct?
Yes.
And he assisted with the redoing of this home, is that right?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this line of questioning as it's irrelevant to this case.
Overruled. Did the other kids also assist?
Oh, yes.
All right. Once the house was completed, what did you do at that point with regard to that particular house?
Sold it.
All right. Now, were there 2 other houses that you did the same thing to?
Yes.
So in Alex's background, when they show a change of address from place to place within Osage, was that out of some necessity, or is that because you all were helping work, refurbish these houses and then would sell them?
Yeah, it's just a hobby.
Okay. So when the addresses would change, would it in fact change the school district, or would you stay in the same school district?
No, here in Osage, it was all in the same school district. Smaller town.
Thank you. So when you take a look at Defendant's Exhibit D, and you can pick them out, which one is the house? I believe D was,
That's the last house.
all right,
Oh,
Maple
wait.
Street.
No, my bad. This is second house. This was actually my uncle's house.
All
I
right.
bought it from him to fix.
All right, and you fixed that house up with the kids, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, don't show that to the jury, it's not admitted as evidence yet, so just look at it yourself and identify it, okay?
Yep.
And there was a house you lived in when Alex was, how old was he at that point?
He graduated that year.
So he would have been a senior in high school?
Yeah, I think it was also his junior year.
Okay, his junior and senior year of high school.
Yes.
I'm going to show you now what is the Maple Street house, and tell us how old was Alex when he was living there?
He was graduated from high school and an old man.
And I'm going to show you what is the Exhibit C1. Take a look at that and tell us, is that the high school that he stayed within that same district? You can take a look at it.
Yes, sir.
Is that the high school where you guys stayed within the district of, at the time he was, you were fixing up these houses in Osage, is that right?
Yes.
And how old was he when he graduated from this high school?
18.
Does this represent a fair and accurate photograph of what the high school looked like?
Yes.
All right. And that's the high school he graduated from, is that
Yes.
correct? When Alex was in high school, first of all, did he have any difficulty in terms of his grades or attention or discipline?
His grades, it depended on whether or not he was interested in what he was learning. If he was interested in it, he was very good with his grades. If he wasn't interested in it, they weren't so good. I'm sorry, what else did you ask me?
No. So we're just talking about high school right now. Did he ever get disciplined at all in high school?
There was one incident, yes, he was accused of something.
All right, and that was in high school?
Yes.
All right. And what was that?
He had a pocket knife that he had forgotten he had taken, and it was reported that he was showing it off.
All right. And the school administrators contacted you about that, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, let's go back now to junior high, and I want to just go from the 7th to the 9th grade before you moved up to Iowa, to Osage, when you were in Granbury. Did you have any difficulty at all with any disciplinary issues in junior high school?
No.
All right. As a result of the incident at high school, when the administration called you about the knife that he had taken to school, was he disciplined about that?
Yes.
Were you present at the time that he reacted to that situation?
Yes.
Do you recall it at all?
Yes.
Tell us in your terms what you observed and keep it to the point. Did you observe anything in your son? He was how old at that point, 15 or 16?
Yeah.
Okay. That caused you some concern?
Yeah, I was shocked how angry he was about it. It was surprising.
What did you observe about his anger about that incident in the 9th grade that concerned you?
Well, it wasn't the 9th grade, because that was back in
Okay,
Granbury.
the 10th grade,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Okay. It's just, well, I understood his point because
Right, just stay focused on my question if you don't mind.
just how fast and how angry he was.
Okay. And as a result of that incident, was there any discipline taken against him?
From the school?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, they held on to the knife, and I think it was a day or two suspension.
Was it in-school suspension?
Yes.
All right. After that incident, did he have any others in school prior to his graduation?
No.
All right. And he lived with you that entire time, is that correct?
Yes.
Prior to high school graduation, outside of school, did you notice or observe anything, and we're talking until he graduated from high school, any other incident that you observed that concerned you about his action or reaction to a situation that you can specify? And we're talking about up till he graduated from high school.
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this time, as this is rather vague in terms of what he's asking about, anything that surprised her.
Well, let me see, can I specify? Let me try to narrow it down, Your Honor. Anything that brought to your attention with regard to his temper between the incident at the school until he graduated from school, outside of the school system. Did you understand that question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We were up at Rochester shopping at the mall up there.
Is that Rochester, Minnesota?
Yeah.
Okay.
We stopped at the Hy-Vee there on, I don't know the name of the street, but we stopped there, and the girls, Alex and I, was walking in, and there was a group of young guys that had made a kind of rude comment about his younger sister, and that didn't go very well.
Did he get upset?
Yes.
Did he express his anger?
Yes.
And did anyone from the family have to calm him down?
Yes.
Who calmed him down?
His oldest sister and I.
Okay. Would you describe your family as you and your daughters and Alex as a very close-knit family?
Yes.
You basically raised him as a single mother, is that correct?
Yes.
So when Alex graduated from high school, and the question I have, other than refurbishing these houses that you all have talked about, did Alex do any additional work outside of helping refurbish the 3 homes in Osage while he was in high school?
He finally did get a job at McDonald's. It was hard for him to get employment. Nobody knew him in Osage.
I'm going to show you what is marked as Defendant's Exhibit B. Does that appear to be the McDonald's? Was that Charles City there?
Yes,
Okay. Did he get a job there?
yes.
And tell us the job he got there, and how did he get back and forth to work when he went to McDonald's?
Well, his oldest sister had been working there, and so he went and applied. And what was the other part?
No. And how long did he work there, if you know? Were you still living in Osage at the time?
Oh, yes, we were at the State Street house.
All right. And how long did he work there from your best knowledge, or your recollection, I should say?
Year and a half, 2 years.
And what type of work was my other question that he did there?
He was a cook. He cooked the hamburgers.
And was that his main job during that time?
Yeah.
All right. Now, he's about a year and a half out of high school at this point, when he was working at McDonald's?
Yeah, he
All right.
graduated, yeah.
My question is, up to this point in time of his life, did Alexander have a girlfriend?
One.
All right. And who was that? And what grade was she, if you know?
She's the same age as my youngest daughter, so she was what, 10, no, what, let's see, I don't know. What, she a senior? Were y'all seniors?
You'll have to answer the question.
I'm trying to
yourself.
figure it out. I
Take
can't
your
remember if they
time
were
and just
juniors or
write, yeah.
seniors.
But you knew he had one girlfriend, is that correct?
Yes.
Other than Callie, was that his only girlfriend, and Callie being the person he married, and the jury got a chance to hear from her, but was she his only other girlfriend that you knew about?
Yes.
Okay. And where did she live?
She's there in Mitchell County, Osage.
So after Alex worked at McDonald's, and during the time that he worked there, which is a year and a half, did you observe any incident with regard to his temper or his anger that got your attention other than this incident at Rochester?
Several little incidences, yeah, just angry quickly over simple things.
Over things that would be simple in your opinion?
Yeah.
All right. After he left his job at McDonald's, do you know where he went after that to work, if any place?
I think it was Port Charles at the time. It's now Apple Valley.
Okay. And what is that? Explain that to the jury.
It's a retirement type home there in Charles City, just down the street from McDonald's.
Do you know who helped get him that job?
His sister.
And that would be Janae?
Yes, his
All
oldest
right.
sister.
How long did he work at that job, and what did he do there, as best you can recall?
I'm not sure about how long it was. I don't recall that.
Okay, what did he do there then?
He was a cook. He was in the kitchen. He liked cooking for veterans.
Okay. And you indicate that was a nursing home, or was it, what
No.
type home was it?
No, I think it was more of a retirement. Like, it depended on the type of care they would need. I think they had different levels.
All right, and you designated his job there. Was he the only cook? Did he assist people with cooking? What did he do?
He was supposed to assist people, but most of the time he was to cook everything.
All right. And he still lived at home with you during that time, is that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Did there ever come a point in time when you and his sisters left Osage and moved back to Texas?
Yes.
What year was that?
It was July 2013.
All right. And when you left, did Alex go with you?
Yes.
When he arrived in Texas, did he get a job there?
No.
What did he do?
I don't think he was planning on staying, but I don't know that for sure. He just basically wanted to come back up here to see Kelly.
Okay. And had he met Callie at that point in 2013?
Oh, no, they've known each other for 5 years.
Okay. But was he dating her or anything like that at that time?
Yes,
In 2013?
yes,
Okay. They were friends?
yes.
So when he moved back to Iowa, where did he live? Do you know?
In a hotel.
Was that being,
Oh, Iowa City, I guess.
did he have a job at that point?
Before he left Texas, he was on the phone with that gentleman, Cy, about the security job. He had not acquired the job yet. He was going up there to be with Kelly and to cross his fingers to get the job.
Okay. And you know for a fact he got that job, is that correct?
Yes.
After he got that job, did he ever come back to Texas to visit with you and his sisters?
Yes.
And when he came back, how long did he stay?
Well, his car was in the shop when he first went up. And so he came back to get his car and give me back my truck and went back up there.
So when he came back to Texas, how long did he stay?
A couple of days.
How was he doing when he came back to Texas to bring you the truck back and get the car?
Seemed agitated, tired, frustrated.
Did you spend any time with him to talk with him?
Yes.
Did you notice at that time anything that struck you as unusual about him and how he was acting from what you knew about it when he was finishing high school and working at the retirement home in Osage?
Yeah, he always texting, always on the phone, either phone calls or texting. Agitated, tired, bored.
And he came back to Iowa to be with Callie and to start this job, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you know at that point that he and Kelly were about to get married?
I had a gut feeling that he was going to ask her to marry him or get engaged, but I didn't know exactly about the marriage.
And he got married in, when was that? Was it September?
Yes.
Did you and the girls come to the wedding?
Nope.
Is there a reason why you did not?
I didn't know about it.
Okay. Did the girls know about it?
Nope.
Do you know where the marriage took place?
The cabin's somewhere over there by, Iowa City Park.
But you knew Kelly, is that right? You've known her for a number of years.
Oh, yeah.
And she's in the courtroom now, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, where does Kelly live now?
With me.
What type of work do you do now?
Right now, I'm working at Sam's Club.
And where does Kelly work?
Michael's craft store.
So when he came back up, got married to Kelly, and started working at the security company at the mall, were you surprised by the fact that he and Kelly had gotten married?
No, I just was surprised that they did it the way they did it, but not bad.
Did he come back to see you other than to bring the truck back before he got married? When I say he, I'm talking about Alex.
I don't think so.
Okay. And I think I've asked you already, did you notice anything about him when he came back that struck you as unusual, and I think you've explained that. But I want to go forward now from the time you married her in September of 2014 through the end of December, okay? Are you focusing on the time that I'm looking at? How did you communicate with Alex during that time? Explain briefly to the jury how you did that.
I had to learn to give him some space and do texting more than calling.
Okay. And did you text him a lot?
Yes,
How often?
twice a day.
And briefly, the nature of that text, what would it be about? Your normal activity or what?
How is he doing? Is he okay?
Did you have some concerns about him?
Yeah.
Why was that?
He just couldn't get a break. He just, just couldn't get a break. It was always something.
So from September, December, after he got married, did anything come to your attention about him that raised some concern with you? And now we're talking about September when he got married until December of 2014.
What was the question?
All right, okay, take a deep breath and we'll start focusing here. We're talking about from the time he got married to Kelly until December of 2014, while he's working at the mall as a security guard. Okay, we're not into 2015 yet. Did anything concern you about what was going on with Alex?
He was,
Your Honor, perhaps she's going to answer this, but I would object to relevance unless it is specified what this question is referring to. And her view on this is really irrelevant.
I'll sustain the question, or the objection, to the extent the question could be clarified, Mr. Parrish.
I will, Your Honor. Let me see if I can clarify it. After Alex got married, did anything concern you as his mother about his well-being between the dates of when he got married in September, I believe it was September 4th, and December of 2014?
Your
yes.
Honor, again, I'm going to object. It's talking about his well-being, which is not relevant in this case.
You can still answer me.
Yeah,
What was it?
his frustration,
What?
work.
Did he express to you those frustrations at work?
Yes, but he didn't give me details. I just knew he was done.
And that's how he kind of expressed it to you, that he was done at work, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, sir.
When you said he didn't give you details, with your relationship with Alex up to this point, being a single mom, did he tend to share details of what's going on with you prior to his marriage?
Sometimes,
But not all the time?
not all the time.
All right. Now let's go to January of 2015 up to June 1st, okay, of 2015. Have we focused on those dates?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever see him in person between those dates? And what I mean by that, where you saw him face to face in person,
No.
all right? After not seeing him, how did you communicate? And again, we want to focus on those dates, January of 2015 to the 1st of June of 2015.
Texts.
Was that the main way, a way that you communicated?
Yes.
And through the text messages that you sent him or he sent you, and we're talking about up to the June date now, not past the June 1st date, did he communicate with you in any way that you had concern about his well-being or how he was doing on his job?
Not so much about his well-being, but yes, about his frustrations at work.
What did he tell you about his frustration with work?
He has an idiot for a boss and supervisor.
And did that person have a name?
No,
Did you know whether it was male or female?
no,
Did you know at that point in time that Alex had been communicating with another person who worked at the mall by the name of Andrea et al.?
no,
You were totally unaware.
totally unaware.
So in terms of him communicating about the problems he was having at work, he never associated that in any of his text message with Ms. Farrington.
No.
Now let's go then from the 1st of June to June 12th. Between those dates, did you ever take it upon yourself to take any steps to come to Iowa or make arrangements to come to Iowa?
In my mind, I had given myself a deadline. I was fixing to hire a moving company to come up here to North Liberty and pack up Alex and Kelly and bring them home.
Tell us then what happened between June and June 12th before this tragic incident that as a mom led you to want to take those steps. What did you see, what did you hear in Alex that led you to that point?
Much anger.
But what? Other than just much anger, can you be more specific?
Frustration at work that he was done.
And what steps had you taken to take steps to move he and Kelly back to Texas?
I was going to,
Objection, Your Honor. I think he asked what steps she had taken. I believe her testimony is irrelevant because it's what she was thinking of doing, not what she actually did.
Overruled.
I was going to get a moving company to come up here, and I was going to drive up and pick up Alex up at work. I was not going to inform him what my plans were. I was just going to pick him up at work and go get Kelly at work and tell him they're coming home.
And it was your thought based upon the messages that you had received from him and the conversations that you'd had with him that led you to those conclusions, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Were any of the actions that you had planned to take based on any information that you had with regard to his relationship with Andrea Farrington?
No.
Did you know anything at all about his relationship with her?
No.
How did you hear about the incident of Alex shooting Andrea Farrington?
The girls and I went out to dinner. I had just gotten home. I had been taking care of a friend who has cancer, and it was my turn to come home. So we went out to eat, and Kelly called me and said there had been a shooting at the mall. And I said, "Where are you?" And she said, "I'm in the parking lot at work, and I don't know where to go, what to do." And I said, "Well,
Well, can you just tell me, when did you hear?
Between 7 and 8,
Who did you hear from?
Kelly.
What did she tell you?
Just that there was a
Objection is called
shooting at the
hearsay.
mall.
Excited utterance.
I think the answer's already
in. To the extent it's in, I'll overrule the objection. To the extent the witness was going to say more, I'll sustain it.
Were you surprised?
Objection, irrelevant.
Sustain.
What was your reaction?
Again, objection, it's irrelevant.
Sustain.
Maybe approaching that issue. Mr. McComas, let me rephrase my question. I apologize for not making that clear. Were you surprised that Alex was involved in a shooting at the mall?
Objection, Your Honor, it's irrelevant.
Overruled.
No.
Why not?
Objection, again, Your Honor, it's irrelevant.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think there's a legal matter we need to take up, and it's now 4:30. I'm going to excuse you for the day. We'll see you back at 9 tomorrow morning. Please remember your admonition during the recess. Please be seated. Mr. Parrish, what would be your contention as to why the answer is relevant?
I'm trying to think of which question is pending now as to when she said no, she was not surprised.
Why were you not surprised? Is the pending question.
Right, that Alex was involved in a shooting.
Right.
It would be relevant, Judge, to show, I can't say I know what her total answer is going to be. My answer would be that she would think he would be someone at that point who would have been protecting someone. That's the shooting incident that I think she would respond to, as opposed to him shooting someone.
Well, how is it that you think her response that she would be surprised he was shooting someone versus protecting someone is going to tie into your defense or to the elements of the crime here?
For two reasons. Number one, that he tended to be someone who would be overly protective and would exercise some degree of violence to do that, or that would be one thing. The second thing is that her surprise would be that her surprise would be, if she said she was surprised, would be to the extent that she would never think his temper would have gotten to that point based upon what she knew about him up to this point in his life.
Okay, Ms. Linus, what's the state's position on this question?
But her opinion and her reaction is not relevant. It's not going to prove whether he had a mental defect that would substantiate a diminished responsibility complaint, or that it otherwise deals with the actual elements in this case. She's not an expert. She's not here as a mental health person. What her belief was in terms of what he would be doing, or why he would be involved in a shooting, or why it wouldn't surprise her, is not relevant in any capacity in this case.
Well, counsel, it seems to me that this is the defendant's mother, one of the people in the world who would probably know the defendant better than most others. To some degree, her reaction to the news would be a reflection of her overall understanding of the defendant. I'm not sure the evidence is highly relevant, but I think it is relevant. And I think to some extent it does tie in with the defense theory and what the defense expert may be addressing. I will note that in the prosecution case, a very large amount of evidence that was probably not particularly relevant came in without objection, in light of the fact that I want to be sure Mr. Kozak gets a fair trial here. I prefer to her on the side of letting a piece of evidence of potentially not high relevance but some relevance come in. I think the relevance standard in Iowa is extremely broad. And as I have not yet heard the full defense expert theory, I'd prefer to have Mr. Kozak have his foundation for that theory in the record. So I will allow the answer to the question when we reconvene tomorrow. I want to talk about a couple of other issues. First of all, Dr. High, is he going to be here tomorrow or Friday sometime?
No, Judge, that's what I was going to bring. I'm glad you mentioned that. Two issues. I'd like to get our experts on. I was almost wrapping up with Ms. McComas, but we're going to have Dr. Logan coming in the morning and Dr. High. I told Dr. High, he's coming in tonight actually. I emailed him over the lunch hour because we've been bouncing schedules around, and I told him to be at the courthouse at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning because I told Ms. Linus that they might want to interview him. For the record, I will say that I did add I believe, Dr. Logan's report. I sent that to him. What's his last name? Your expert? Hochler's report. I sent that to him. I believe we also sent the last batch of text messages to him. I also sent him, Judge, what I thought would be the questions that I would pose to him. I'm willing to share that. I think it hasn't changed very much from what I've said from the beginning. But we did send him text messages that we were unaware that we had that many. We did send him some additional text messages. I would like to get, Judge, Dr. Logan on, and he will be referring to the incidents that he talked to Ms. McComas about, the other sister about, and we have sent him, as I told Ms. Linus, the incidents that have come up, I believe, with Wendy Robbins, the incident about throwing the pad down on the floor and cursing at Ms. Robbins, and maybe a couple other incidents, which would be encompassed in his testimony. He did send a supplemental report up that we were correcting and sending back. I told Ms. Linus I was giving her the supplemental report, but we were correcting the spelling errors, etc., and getting them back to Dr. Logan. I'd like to put Dr. Logan, Judge, on simply because of not only, I realize he's coming in out of order, but the cost factors involved, and for the time that he will not, I'd rather not have to keep him over 2 days if we can avoid it.
Well, I think you can call Dr. Logan at any point in the case, so long as you tie up the factual basis adequately, and experts can rely to some degree even on evidence that's not otherwise admissible at trial. We may not get into detail on all that evidence during the trial, but they can rely on that. I don't have an issue calling Dr. Logan out of order or calling him tomorrow. I think there is a financial reason to do that, as he is not free, and I would prefer to see the public defender's resources used efficiently rather than inefficiently. In that regard, you have a pending motion for approval of his fees to testify.
Correct.
And that was filed, the motion was filed under seal. I've not yet entered an order. Is there any reason why the order needs to be filed under seal?
I don't think so, Your Honor. I just wanted to assure him that I had gotten that taken care of, because there was a glitch, I think, more so in my office the first time. And I just wanted to assure him that we had taken care of that.
Well, and what I intend to do is, you've asked for approval of a certain amount. I'm going to approve payment up to that amount. The court has not seen any details as to what his final time, expenses, and whatnot are. Usually, we reserve the public defender's right to come in and complain that, hey, this doesn't look right. I'm going to approve his payment up to the amount you asked, and preserve the right of the public defender to come back and say, wait a minute, we called foul, we think there's something wrong here. I don't know that they'll do that, but that would typically be what we would do in appointed counsel or other situations. It is a fairly substantial amount. It's in the range of numbers from my practice. I'm not shocked to see the number, but it's towards the upper end of the range. So I will approve it. He can be assured he's getting paid. There may be some issue if the public defender raises one going forward on, wait a minute, why were your expenses what your expenses were, or something like that.
Right.
Probably won't, but there might be.
I thought in light, and I don't know, Judge, and can't quote that case right at the top of my head, that case that came out of, I think, North Central Iowa the last 3 or 4 weeks, I guess, and I can't call it right up, that caused us mostly to want to do this in camera and not have the public defender jump in quite as much. That's my only thought.
Well, and I don't know that they will.
Right.
But I think at this point, the fact he's testifying is public record. His opinions are largely public record.
Right.
Or about to be public record. And I don't think there's anything about the application at this point that requires that the order be in camera. If there had been, for example, an estimate of hours spent or a statement of hours already spent, that would definitely have to be in camera, because disclosing that information would tell the prosecution exactly what you had working on.
I would agree, Judge.
So I would go at the end of that order. With regard to Dr. Hyde, I would like to do a Rule 104 hearing on him before he testifies. If you're not sure he's testifying tomorrow.
Oh, he will be, because I want to
Okay.
get him out too. He'll be, I'll tell you, Judge, he'll be very short. I don't know, when Ms. Linus visits with him, he's very short in stature, but he'll be a pretty quick witness. I'm going to ask him, I told him I thought 15 minutes, and I think I represented that in my earlier. Once
So
we
would
get,
you put him on first or second?
I put him on first. If, assuming I pass my 104 hearing, I'd put him on first.
So maybe we could do the 104 hearing if the state's going to have a chance to talk to him at 8. Maybe we could do the 104 hearing at 8:30. I'm envisioning that'll be a 5 or 10 minute hearing. I'm not going to ask the state to cross-examine him. I'm not going to ask you to qualify him. I'm just going to ask you to cover the substance of what he's saying and the main bases, so I can ascertain whether the state's objections to the substance of his testimony are meritorious or not.
Okay. That's
And-
right.
And then I'll let you know if he's testifying. If he is, and you call him first, maybe we can finish Ms. McComas. Ms. McComas, I'm sorry, you don't have to sit there for this. You could step down if you'd like. You can finish her if you wish, or you can interrupt her and put Dr. Logan and Dr. High on and call her back. If you have
Okay.
just a few questions, maybe we can finish the direct, reserve, and cross-examination on her. The other question that I had is motions. I said you could reserve them. Do you want to assert any motions at this point?
Judge, you know, God, I've done this a lot of years. My thought is that this is perhaps one case, and I hope I don't look at a 20, well, not a 2054, 2055, but a PCR on this. But I just genuinely don't think there is a proper motion I can make at this point on any issue. I think in terms of cleaner record that I've seen in the cases I've tried over the years, is perhaps one of the cleanest records I've ever seen. And I don't do that with regard to any waiver issues, but I just don't see how I can, in good conscience, make a motion at this time, considering the status I took with regard to my opening, how I understand the law in this matter, and my defense in this case.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with you, Mr. Parrish. I just wanted to be sure you had the opportunity.
Right.
I'm not suggesting I would have granted a motion. I have a similar view of
posture of the case to you, I don't think this is a case where an acquittal is in the offing. It's just a question of what. Have you had a chance yet to talk to Mr. Kozak about our instructions issue on the lesser included?
I have, Your Honor, and he's deferred to me on that. I explained to him what he was entitled to. I told Ms. Linus earlier that I had chatted with him. We talked yesterday. I'm comfortable with the conversation I had with him. I believe, Judge, we're not going to ask for anything less than involuntary manslaughter in terms of what he's entitled to, understanding that he is entitled, had he want to go all the way down to all of the lesser included. I just don't see that in the cards in terms of what I can legitimately argue to the jury or what I think the evidence supports in this case.
So what I'll do, Mr. Parrish, is when we make the record on the instructions, I'll ask you to make a professional statement. I'll ask Mr. Kozak if he agrees with the professional statement. I won't ask him anything more than that. I think under the existing case law, that would be adequate to make the necessary record. Not absolutely certain of that, but I'm also reluctant to be grilling your client during the middle of his trial. So the question I always ask, if you agree with what Mr. Parrish has just said.
That sounds good.
And assuming he doesn't change his mind between now and we make a record on the instructions, then I think you could consider the current draft set of instructions to be relatively complete, subject to comments from the two sides about things that might need to be added, deleted, or changed.
Okay.
Because I think it now covers the lessons that we anticipate, and that from our conversations yesterday, I'm anticipating you will not want the instruction regarding the fact the defendant didn't testify, but you could change your mind on that.
That's correct. I'm feeling pretty strong on that, Judge, that in light of the voir dire in this case and the questionnaire, the extensive questionnaire we did, I just don't anticipate asking for that.
Okay.
All right.
So is there any further record we need to make at this time, Ms. Linus?
I don't think there's a record, but there's some other issues I would like to bring up with the court before we leave today.
And we will. Mr. Parrish, any further record we need to make?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, so let's go off the record. Do we have some other logistics and whatnot to discuss?
Yes, some minor things. One is that I believe all of the psychiatric evaluations and Dr. Logan as well as Dr. Kochler and Dr. Anderson all reference in their reports that the defendant was in custody. I know we had talked about not having that broadcast to the jury at some time, and I wanted to get direction from the court whether we should just redact those sections. There is also an indication in one of them that it was a Class A felony, and I wanted to make sure that that was redacted, but I didn't want to take any action on their reports without permission of the court.
If the reports themselves are coming into evidence, and if there's testimony that covers the details of the reports, I don't know if the two sides plan to put the reports on or not. But if they're coming in, any reference to the fact that what caliber felony this is, any reference to the fact that Mr. Kozak is in custody, should come out unless Mr. Kozak wants the fact that he's in custody in those reports, because the potential onus or prejudice is towards Mr. Kozak. The fact that it's a Class A felony needs to come out. The jury has nothing to do with punishment. They don't know. I'm sure they assume that he'll go to prison if they convict him, but that's all they should assume. Mr. Parrish, does your client want the references to the fact he's in custody out?
Ms. Linus brought that up with me, Judge. You know, I tell you, I've tried several of these similar type cases. I have not introduced the reports, and that's something I think we need to talk about. Let's assume then that the reports come in. I would tend to agree, knowing that this jury knows through voir dire, we've acknowledged that he's in custody. I'm not sure it changes the complexion of this at all, unless there's something I might be missing. I mean, I don't know. I'd like to think about it maybe tonight and talk with a couple of my associates and partners about it. But
Let me know your position in the morning.
I will.
Again, I don't know what the intent of the parties is as to whether reports will come in light of the fact the experts will actually be testified here. But we can address that further in the morning. Did you have other issues, Ms. Linus?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that the court knew that we were continuing with our motion in limine regarding the pictures that were previously filed in the state's motion in limine. Additionally, though, too, we were given in the last few days the copy of the proposed defense exhibits, and one of them marked Defendant's Exhibit BB is the actual psychological testing, I believe done by Dr. Kokler on Mr. Kozak, and it actually has his response forms on the SIMS evaluation that was done on him. This is a psychological test that does have requirements under the Iowa law in terms of who can be released to. I'm uncomfortable having this as an exhibit and going back to the jury, consider, if that's the intent of the defense, considering again, as we have discussed previously, they are not psychologists and you actually have to be trained to read these. And if they were just to be shown the raw information without the expertise to read it, I think that that is inappropriate and irrelevant and would be filing an objection to that as well. I just wanted to bring that to the court's attention so that I didn't suddenly make this objection during trial and you didn't have a chance to think about it at all. So that's why I raised it
Mr.
now.
Parrish, I don't know that you're required to tell us your intention at this point. So, I mean, if you want to, you're free to, but I'm not going to ask you for it. So I can wait and see if it's offered and what the context is when it is, and then address it at that time. I appreciate the heads up, though.
The photographs, Judge, quite frankly, I want to get them in.
I mean the psychological testing,
Right.
not the photographs.
Right, on the psychological testing, Judge, I think my conversation with Dr. Logan, since we received those, will be relevant. I don't intend to introduce the documents themselves. Matter of fact, I didn't even think the reports were going in, but obviously that's something we have to talk about. I've never introduced reports to a jury in a case like this, so.
Well, there is an Iowa Supreme Court case that addresses the issue. The two of you, I would encourage you to look it up.
Okay.
I won't tell you what the answer is. I'll let you find out for yourself.
Okay.
I have dealt with this issue as a lawyer, so I know the answer. But let's, as far as the photographs, I think my earlier ruling was I wanted to see context. I'm still getting the context, I think.
Right.
So whether I admit them depends on the context and whether they're relevant or not. And I think there may have also been a 403 objection to them. And I'll assess that when and if they're actually offered again.
Okay.
Is there anything further we need to address at this point?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow at 8:30 so we can address Dr. Hyde.
Right, and I told him to be here at 8, and Janice, if I'm not here, I told him I'll be here. You guys can go ahead and talk to him.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And he could show you the email too that I sent him as to what questions I'm going to ask. He should have that with him.
Pictures of houses, pictures of the dogs.
Deputies, you guys already know when you went back.
High school.
You guys already worked on it?
Just go with the high school picture because
Before 8:30.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Are you done with that one?
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
This replaces their T2.
Hmm?
This replaces their T2.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
have it
So
for
she
you.
went all that work to.
Is this my copy or their
No,
copy?
that's their copy.
Give this to them.
Well, I can,
Oh,
but I
okay.
just wanted to.
All right, just tell them.
Yeah. Okay.
The one that was supposed to
What is-
be,
can
no,
you
the
tell
one
me
supposed
to
to be
change
in
this?
Lynn County,
Where?
I got to do what John said.
It's-
So I had to email and say that Friday, I got 2 or 3 paragraph